The Angel of Warsaw, Irena Sendler's Underground Railroad in the winter of 1940. As Nazi jackboots echoed through the cobblestone streets of Warsaw, a young Polish nurse made a decision that would either save thousands of lives or cost her own. Irena Sendler, armed with nothing more than a stethoscope, a forged identity card, and an iron will, was about to orchestrate one of the most audacious rescue operations in human history. What she accomplished in the shadow of the Holocaust would remain hidden for decades, buried like the glass jars that contained her most precious secrets. The ghetto's guardian angel when the Wehrmacht sealed the Warsaw Ghetto in November 1940, trapping over 400,000 Jews behind 10-foot walls topped with barbed wire. Most of the world looked away, but Irena Sendler looked closer. As a social worker with the Warsaw Health Department, she possessed something invaluable. The Nazis, terrified of typhus epidemics spreading beyond the ghetto walls, inadvertently handed her the key to their prison. At 29 years old, Sendler was an unlikely savior. Born into a middle-class Catholic family, she had been raised on her father's philosophy. If someone is drowning, you must try to rescue them, even if you cannot swim. Now, watching an entire population drown in systematic persecution, she prepared to dive into the deepest, most dangerous waters imaginable. The statistics were staggering. By 1942, the ghetto's population was dying at a rate of 5,000 people per month from starvation, disease, and deportation to Treblinka. But hidden within these horrific numbers was a glimmer of hope for the children. If Sendler could save them, she could preserve the future of Polish Jewry itself. The network of shadows operating under the code name Jolanta Sendler assembled a network of 25 conspirators that read like a cast of unlikely heroes. Janitors and judges, teachers and tram conductors, priests and plumbers. Together, they formed Jagoda, the Polish Council to Aid Jews, transforming ordinary citizens into extraordinary rescuers. The operation required meticulous planning and split-second timing. Each rescue was a chess match against death, with Nazi guards as unwitting opponents. Sendler's team developed a sophisticated system of signals. A flower pot in a specific window meant danger. A particular arrangement of laundry indicated all clear, and coded messages, hidden in seemingly innocent conversations, coordinated their movements. But perhaps most remarkably, every rescue began with a heartbreaking conversation. Sendler would sit with desperate parents in cramped, disease-ridden apartments, explaining that she could save their children but could make no promises about reunion. Some parents refused, unable to bear the thought of separation. Others, recognizing the inevitable fate that awaited them, made the ultimate sacrifice of love letting go. Here's where the story takes an extraordinary turn that would make Hollywood screenwriters weep with envy. The smuggler's toolkit of salvation, Sendler's rescue methods, were nothing short of ingenious, born from desperation and refined through deadly trial and error. She understood that the Nazis' systematic brutality had created predictable patterns she could exploit. Guards expected certain things, coffins contained only corpses, medical supplies transported only medicine, and maintenance workers carried only tools. The coffin method was perhaps the most psychologically demanding. Working with sympathetic cemetery workers and undertakers, Sendler would hide sedated children in coffins during funeral processions. The children, some as young as 6 months old, had to remain absolutely silent as they were carried past Nazi checkpoints. One small cry, one movement at the wrong moment, meant death for everyone involved. The psychological toll on both rescuer and rescued was immense. Imagine explaining to a 4-year-old that they must play the sleeping game while surrounded by darkness and the smell of death. For infants and toddlers, Sendler developed the medical supply ruse. Hidden in bundles of dirty laundry or medical equipment, babies were transported in specially modified bags with air holes. During one rescue, guards became suspicious of a medical supply bag that seemed to be moving. Quick-thinking Sendler began violently shaking the bag, explaining to the guards that she was demonstrating how to mix medications. The terrified infant inside, perhaps sensing the danger, remained silent. The suitcase method required the most preparation. Working with her carpenter allies, Sendler commissioned specially designed luggage with false bottoms and hidden compartments. Older children, who could follow complex instructions, were taught to curl into impossibly small spaces and remain motionless for hours. Some suitcases had dual compartments, legitimate medical supplies on top, human cargo below. But Sendler's most audacious method involved the sewage system itself. The ghetto's sewer network, originally designed for waste removal, became an underground railroad. Children as young as 8 crawled through excrement-filled tunnels for hundreds of yards, following maps memorized in advance. Those who survived the journey emerged into a world where they had to immediately assume new identities, speak different languages, and forget their own names. The ultimate deception: living lies. Once outside the ghetto, each child became a living piece of fiction. Sendler's network had perfected the art of creating new identities, forged baptismal certificates, transformed Jewish children into Catholic orphans, while carefully rehearsed stories explained away any lingering accents or unfamiliar customs. The children were placed with foster families, orphanages, and convents throughout Poland. Nuns became surrogate mothers, teaching Jewish children to recite Catholic prayers with the same fervor they once reserved for Hebrew blessings. Foster parents risked their entire families to harbor children whose real names they often never knew. Meanwhile, Sendler maintained meticulous records of each child's real identity, writing their true names and family information on tissue paper that she buried in glass. Jars beneath an apple tree in a friend's garden, these jars contained more than names. They held the hope of eventual reunion and the preservation of identity itself. The price of heroism in October 1943, Sendler's luck ran out. The Gestapo arrested her, beginning 3 months of interrogation and torture that would have broken most people. They broke her legs and arms, but never her silence. She never revealed a single name, location, or detail about her operation. Her Jagoda comrades, risking their own lives, bribed guards and orchestrated her escape just hours before her scheduled execution. Even while recuperating from her injuries, Sendler continued her work. She understood that every day of delay meant more children lost forever. Her network had evolved beyond her direct control, becoming a self-sustaining system of salvation that continued operating even without its founder. The numbers that changed history by the war's end. Sendler's network had smuggled 2,500 Jewish children to safety each rescue, representing not just one life saved, but entire family lines preserved. To put this in perspective, she saved more Jewish lives than the combined efforts of many national governments. Her jars, buried and forgotten during the chaos of war, were finally unearthed in 1999, containing the true identities of hundreds of children whose families had been searching for them for decades. Yet perhaps the most remarkable aspect of Sendler's story is what happened after the war. Under communist rule in Poland, her heroism was suppressed, buried as completely as her glass jars had been. She lived in relative obscurity for decades, working as a nurse and raising her own children, never speaking publicly about her wartime activities. The legacy unearthed. It wasn't until 1999, when a group of Kansas high school students chose to research her story for a history project, that Sendler's remarkable story began to receive international attention. These American teenagers, initially skeptical that one person could have saved so many lives, uncovered documentation that proved every incredible detail. When they finally met the elderly Sendler in person, expecting to encounter a towering figure of strength, they found instead a modest, soft-spoken woman who insisted she had done nothing special. She maintained until her death in 2008 that her only regret was not saving more children. Today, Irena Sendler's story serves as a powerful reminder that ordinary individuals can achieve extraordinary things when guided by moral courage. Her methods, the jars, coffins, and suitcases, have become symbols of creative resistance against systematic evil. But beyond the ingenious techniques and death-defying rescues lies a deeper truth. In humanity's darkest hours, heroes are not born, they simply choose to act. The glass jars may have been unearthed, but Sendler's true legacy remains alive in every person who chooses conscience over comfort, action over apathy. In a world that often seems determined to repeat history's worst mistakes, her story whispers urgently across the decades. There is always something you can do, and someone is always worth saving.